Last month, Israelis were gripped with deep emotions as the body of IDF Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, killed in an ambush in Gaza in 2014 and held by Hamas for 11 years, was finally returned home. Today, we are honored to have his twin brother, Tzur, with us, carrying a powerful message.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the past 11 years, I stood before you as the twin brother of Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, held by Hamas in Gaza. My family, led by Hadar's parents, Leah and Simcha Goldin, my parents, traveled to all corners of the earth to mobilize his release back home for burial since the year 2014. Today, I'm proud to stand before you as Lieutenant Hadar Goldin's twin brother, who was an IDF hero, whom the Jewish nation never gave up upon and brought him back home last month. The story of the efforts to retrieve Hadar is utterly incredible. Intelligence on Hadar's location in Rafah and of the terrorists who obtained and hid him was secured by IDF intelligence as early as the year 2017. When the IDF finally entered Rafah in South Gaza in 2024, 10 months into the war, Hadar's tunnel, as you can see, code-named White Sparrow, Hadar being the sparrow, was located. That exact tunnel, located under the home of Hamas's Rafah military commander, Shabane, uncovered to be the command and control headquarters of Hamas military leadership throughout the war until then. It was there, a few rooms from where Hadar was held, where all the Rafah brigade's chain of command was hit in a few days. Hadar's tunnel was also the source from which the IDF intelligence and special units later traced and led to the targeted hit on Muhammad Def, military Hamas chief of staff, and eventually Yahya Sinwar, Hamas's leader. From the very first day the tunnel was located, and for over a year of search, Hadar was finally found and brought back for burial 1 month ago. Thousands of soldiers in various units, outstandingly the 162 Division, Sheit 13, the Israeli Navy SEALs, and Yalom engineering soldier, fought in Rafah and also searched for Hadar in the most advanced and complicated tunnel in the Gaza Strip. By the time Trump's agreement for Gaza signed off in October, the IDF's control on Hadar's tunnel system and the amount of evidence collected left Hamas no choice but to adhere and assist to locate Hadar, one of their most preserved assets. It's with deep pride and admiration that we see the legacy that the brave, creative, and stubborn generation of intelligence and combat soldiers left us on the Battle of Rafah and of White Sparrow, an outstanding example of determination, pursuit of victory, ruthless persistence, and belief in the path not to leave anyone behind. And what about us, the Goldin family? How did we experience the efforts to bring Hadar home? As we knew about the comprehensive intelligence on Hadar's whereabouts, we were expecting his return every minute over a year, until eventually the unbelievable moment happened over 3 weeks ago, when my mother Leah received the message that Hadar is home. The IDF brought him home. Israel brought him home. We waited for a long time as the count went down from 255 hostages to 150, to 100, to 50 hostages, and to the last 4 hostages. It seemed Hadar, left behind for so many years from 2014 until October 7, stood on guard to make sure all Israel's hostages are brought back home. One, Ron Gvili, is still held behind. Peter Drucker once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." He said that in context of organization, management, and strategy. For 11 years, my family knocked on every door in the quest to bring Israel's hostages home, and worked tirelessly to create a future where hostages are being fought upon and retrieved, and that terrorist entities pay the ultimate price for holding Israeli hostages. At times, it felt hard and in many times impossible. Just as Israel, mystified by misconceptions of Hamas's intentions and operations in the south, it was also mystified by clear misconception about its effort to retrieve its hostages. From the day my brother was abducted and murdered until October 7th, Israel went through 19 combat rounds and 3 full-scale operations in Gaza without demanding the release of its hostages. It never demanded the retrieval of its hostages as a precondition of many dozen vast agreements of finance, reconstruction of Gaza, including the deal of the century. Within that time frame, until 2023, over 1,000 Hamas-affiliated prisoners were released according to official prison data, when Hadar was left behind with no demand, in addition of tens of thousands of Gazan workers entering Israel daily. By the way, those workers, out of which many provided the intel for October 7 massacre. Unfortunately, it took October 7 to take all of us to look at the situation and to turn the situation and understand that the situation of 2 civilian hostages and 2 deceased IDF soldier hostage turned into a 255 hostages national crisis. All those years we raised the flag, even when it was unpopular, even where the only voice to shout it out loud. But our struggle was not in vain. Years of sweat and tears helped set the language that fights for hostages. As the war initiated from October 7, our professional volunteer teams from all our organizations in Israel and America, all our operations, those people initiated from 2014, drafted to duty in almost every place of impact since October 7. They were in government, military, intelligence, and negotiation teams in key roles. Our champions also helped mobilize the public language, talking about hostage-taking as a form of terrorism and calling for deterrence on the very notion of hostage-taking, bringing to a situation that the Israeli government actively operates to military, financially, legally, and diplomatically retrieve hostages, and where the obtainment of hostages by Hamas is called to be a burden for Hamas rather than an asset, and Hamas pays disproportionate prices on daring to hold any Israeli in the target to make them not do that again. My dear father Simcha's decade-long talks and education with youth movements and pre-military and military academies influenced a generation of young soldiers with strong dedication to the values of shared faith and retrieving our hostages. In October 7, my family's first action was to release a public message offering support to all people who face the contingency of missing relatives. By October 7 night, a list of over 500 families was formed in our headquarters. Then the list stabilized to the number 255 Israeli hostages. And that got sent to the Israeli government and to the US administration with our guidance. I myself was on my way to war in October 7 per my role as an infantry company commander. But I remember the first video conference very vividly as we announced to all horrified families, you will not be alone, you will not stand alone, you will not be walking alone. We will bring all Israeli society, regardless of its political views, to fight for hostages. Throughout the 9 years before the war and since my brother's abduction, political parties unfortunately advocated and fought for hostage only when it suited their political interests. So we decided that from now on, we will push all parties to lead the national effort to retrieve hostages, each according to its ideology. If there is a debate on the means and results, let there be a debate on how to bring the hostages home instead of whether to leave them all behind. We believe the impossible path to bring hostages was the path to bring us back to our identity home. Values instead of interests. Let me shout a clear message to every family listening to us. Never be ashamed of bringing our loved ones home. The pride of our nation, our Jewish identity, is our sense of shared faith and our willingness to fight for one another and never give up on one another. Hostages can be brought back in many ways. We should never give up on them regardless of our ideology. This war proved our strength and unity. The legacy of this war, of this amazing generation and all good soldiers and civilians that sacrificed so much in our ability to not to give up on each other. This is the basis for the future of Zionism and of our children's pride. Based on that, we can and we will achieve the impossible and beyond. Hamas's kidnapping terrorism seeks to bring the Israeli society to a dilemma where we have to choose from endangering ourselves and releasing convicted terrorist murderers, or abandoning our loved ones and creating a moral felony effectively endangering our national security. Hamas uses this method of terrorism targeted on families that seek to bring their loved ones home in order to create a divide between us all and to choose who is worth retrieving and who is not and in what price. Is it children or women or men, elderly or young, civilians or soldiers, live, injured or deceased? The answer for this method of terrorism against families is deterrence. The IDF dictionary term for deterrence, harta'ah, is defined as a situation where the enemy understands that price against his action is much greater than what he hopes to achieve in his actions. The way to counter the kidnapping terrorism is when Hamas pays an unproportionate price on hostage taking. Let all our enemies know, hear, feel, and adhere. This is a nation that will never accept the abduction of our loved ones, dead, injured, or alive. Let that be your attempt, and you will pay the price. It is in this context that I call for immediate action from Israeli government and the U.S. administration against Hamas that keeps holding Ran Gvili, our last fallen hostage in Gaza, in complete violation of the October Trump agreements. According to the agreement, Hamas obligated to retrieve and give information on the location of all deceased hostages within 72 hours. The IDF MIA headquarters presented the mediators unquestionable evidence of the names of the Islamic Jihad terrorists that directly buried and now hide Gvili, and that their information allows the effective, immediate retrieval of our last hostages before this year, December, ends. This 8-week violation by Hamas must be met with targeted Israeli force. I want to seize this chance to acknowledge Besheva Group, that to my family's experience never mixed values with interests, and ever since my brother's abduction in 2014, covered the efforts concerning Gaza and hostage affairs fearlessly, professionally, and objectively. They stood out, and this was the case long before all people of Israel were exposed to the horrors of October 7th. So thank you. I'm deeply excited to end my note with gratitude now that my brother's picture is on the screen. This is a gratitude in the name of my family to you, all people in the crowd, all people watching us, all Am Yisrael, all good people in Israel and around the world, Jewish and from all other identities and faith that brought our hostages home. Every prayer, every candle lit, every post, every small and big gesture to advocate for our sense of shared fate. And most importantly, to our soldiers, our brave soldiers of the IDF, who sacrifice and stay on guard for all of us and the many families of fallen soldiers and civilians whom we have the definite quest and obligation to be worthy to and make the memory of their loved ones blessed and create life. I also want to thank, in the name of hostage families, President Trump and the U.S. administration for achieving the impossible and being the greatest ally of Israel. In this war, yes. In this war, we can predict the future if we are the ones who create it. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.
Thank you, Tzur. Our next